to that effect. Okay, so let me see. Here we go. When we're in criminal, whether it's a ticket or a speeding violation, a DUI, there's so many other ways that we could be in trouble with the law that we don't even know or we don't even think of as trouble in the law. Part of the conversation for Lilly's Legal Dream Team is to have someone that we can trust in those moments ahead of time, not when you're in the desperate need of it, but when you're ahead of time. We have Kate Mesic, attorney in Jacksonville. She's a criminal defense attorney in Jacksonville. And for those of you who would have any questions, maybe you've had a speeding ticket, maybe it's a criminal or a civil offense. It could be big or small. Maybe you've had a lot of tickets and you just don't even want to look at them. What is it with you that you can resonate? What's resonating with you as I make these examples? Well, today, Kate Mesic is on the air with Lillian McDermott, Lillian McDermott radio show. And if you have a question for today, you can call 407-373-5959. That's 407-373-5959. If you have any questions, you can call me or text me your questions at this time. Any question that you might have for today with criminal defense attorney Kate Mesic. And you can also find her at mesiclaw.com. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Kate Mesic is here to do just that. Welcome to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, Kate.
Hi. Great to be here.
It's always nice to have you on because we don't think of criminal defense as a traffic ticket. So share a little bit about your background and why did you gravitate to criminal defense as an attorney?
Sure. Again, thanks for having me on. I was a prosecutor right out of law school, so got a firsthand, knowledge of what it's like to be on the other side. I now do traffic tickets from speeding to DUI to very serious criminal offenses like leaving the scene of an accident with bodily injury. And a lot of times people don't realize that their license is at stake whenever they get a traffic ticket. They forget about it, they dismiss it, or they pick their own option. And there are several options that you can choose from.
Yes. And so many of us, like I was sharing with you, this happened a while ago. My GPS said I was going within the speed limit, but there was a change. And I didn't realize that there was a change. In a situation like that, I had some options that the police officer gave me, and I decided just to pay the ticket. In a situation like that, where my GPS is saying one thing, I think I'm obeying the law. I mean, would it be prudent for me to come to you? Would it make sense for me to come to you in a situation like that and say, listen, should I do this myself? Or are there things that where I really actually need an attorney?
Well, people call me every day with this exact scenario like yours. What should I do with my ticket?
Yeah.
And again, once you paid it, you automatically pled guilty to that traffic ticket, so you automatically got points.
Yeah.
I certainly think you either do traffic school
I did.
or
yeah.
Well, that way you withheld points. That's different from just paying the ticket.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing, but I go to a hearing for people so they can avoid traffic school.
Yes. And so
still have no points.
You know, I think that there's this myth about, going to an attorney, that somehow that's going to be not worth our time because now we have to pay some money. But the reality is, how much more are we saving when it comes to the headache, the hassle, the future of when we want a job and all of a sudden we have a record that we don't even know about. And so this is what we're going to be talking about today. This is everyday life, my dear friends. Everyday life. We all have to face the situation where we may not like it, but now we have a person we can trust in Jacksonville when we need a friend, when we need an attorney. And we're going to continue our conversation worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. There we go. Okay. Now, how much time do we have left, Alan?
Let me look. Hold on.
Okay. So you get a lot of calls daily. What are the main reasons people call you?
You got about a minute.
Thank you.
Most people about traffic tickets when they call, when it's a civil, it's usually, what do I do with this? What are my options? And most people that call are not just somebody who, lives in Jacksonville. It's people driving through, or people who have an out-of-state license, or really the majority of people I represent have the commercial driver's license, the CDL. Because
really?
Those guys don't have the option of taking the school. And it's really important for them to get rid of the tickets.
So in a situation like that, these are truck drivers? Is that what you're, and
That's
people
exactly
that
right.
maybe, what about people who drive machineries?
If they have the CDL, it just depends on what their job requires. A lot of times for insurance purposes, they absolutely have to get rid of the ticket. Otherwise they'll lose their job.
Wow. I was talking to a person that
Office
flies.
Jacksonville.
Oh, there we go. Time to dance. It's been a little distracting this morning, hasn't it? Come on, Kate. Time to dance. I love seeing you. And by the way, she speaks Russian.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn and grow with one another. Today's teacher is Kate Mesic of Mesic Law. And for those of you, she's a Jacksonville attorney waiting for you. If you have any questions, you can call 904-615-8950. That's her office. She's available on Monday. But today we have her here, and you can call me at 407-373-5959 if you have any questions. We can address them on the air live today. So Kate, thank you so much for taking the time. It's a Saturday morning and you are just so gracious to be here. Let's talk about these tickets and the differences between these tickets, because there's a civil offense and then there's the criminal offense. Let's talk about each one and what they mean.
Well, let me give you some examples that may be the easiest.
Great.
The garden variety traffic ticket that's civil is something like a speeding ticket or failure to maintain a single lane. When somebody gets into an accident, they usually end up with a careless driving ticket. Those are all civil. They don't carry any criminal penalties. It's a monetary fine. But they do become very important and serious for folks whose driver license are affected, like the CDL drivers.
Okay.
On the criminal side, we're talking about reckless driving, leaving the scene of an accident. Even a DUI can be charged by a traffic citation. But when people really get in trouble is when they get a driving on license suspended ticket and they don't realize it's criminal. And then what happens is they don't schedule a court date and then a judge issues a warrant for their arrest. I get that call at least once a week from someone.
Wow. So it's that common. Where
it's
people,
that
that's because once you get there, now, if you don't know that you don't have that there's a unpaid, maybe parking ticket or anything to that effect, could you lose your license at that point?
Absolutely.
Okay.
How
does that look? How many tickets of parking tickets would I have to ignore in order for a judge to say, that's it, I'm going to suspend her license?
I don't think it even gets to a judge, Lily. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know about a parking ticket. I think one parking ticket will probably do it.
Really?
When it comes to, a speeding ticket or just, any ticket you got that's civil and you ignore it. So every county has different deadlines. For example, in Duval County, we have only 30 days to pick your options. Where in the surrounding counties, it may be 90 days. So somebody goes past the 30 days, then it's the clerk's office who will issue the D6 basically notice, and then the DMV in Tallahassee will issue the suspension notice.
And if you're driving without a license, or your license is suspended, at that point, if you are unaware of it, do they have more mercy on you as if you're habitual?
Well, they're really two different types. So if you really don't know, and assuming at the stop the officer truly believes you, they will issue a driving on license suspended unknowingly. And that still is a civil ticket.
Okay.
But if you've gotten one before, or it's very clear you knew about it and you're still driving, then it becomes a criminal DWLSR, and it's a second-degree misdemeanor.
What did you just say?
Driving on license suspended or revoked.
Okay. I'm going, oh my goodness. Let me get that one again. I didn't know if that was because, we talk about the different, credentials for driving. People, what about pilots, people who are flying big old airplanes, if they get a speeding ticket, does that make a difference?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I've never had a pilot who asked me that question. Different license.
This is what I was told about pilots. If they get sick or if they have to have any medication, that gets reported too, and they could be grounded. So many of the pilots don't even go to the doctor because that's kind of scary, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, because they don't want to get suspended. I mean, if they have any medication of some sort. So that's kind of weird the way that happens. And if you are a pilot and you're listening to me, if that's misinformation, please correct me, because this is what I was told by a pilot. So, but anyway, or maybe I misunderstood. Okay, so we're driving and we get stopped for whatever reason. I'll give you an example. Someone was driving and their light was off in their tail light. And no, it was the front light. It was off. And that ticket it's called a fix-it ticket. And they just kept ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it. And they didn't pay the fine. The fine, if he would have just shown up and said, I fixed the light, then that would have been it. But not only did they ignore it, they didn't pay the fine, and they were stopped again, and they didn't have a license. Their license was suspended. In a situation like that, someone now has a civil ticket, but it ended up costing that person close to $800 to get out of everything. What is the process that people go through if they were to, if they were to pay this thing right off, or now that they're in trouble, they come to you or they don't come to you? What is the difference of that? How do you help somebody that is in need like that?
So usually the way it works, somebody picks up the phone and calls me and says, hey, my license is suspended. I've got to get it back. I ran a driver license check, or I look in the public records to figure out what tickets they have. And then we try to figure out, did you just not pay the ticket? Did you not show up to court when you scheduled the court date? Did you sign up for traffic school and didn't do it? Or did you have a red light camera ticket that's been hanging out there from some county in South Florida and you forgot about it? Now, those tickets don't carry any points anyway. So when people call me, I always tell them it's not worth your money to hire me. Just pay the thing and be done with it.
Yes.
So, but what you're talking about, it probably got really expensive if someone didn't pay the ticket. It went into collections, and then you end up paying 3 times the amount, and you now have to deal with the points.
Now, when it goes into collection, can you help anybody at that point?
The way that it works in Jacksonville and Northeast Florida, the clerk's office, once they send it into collections, you have to pay it through collections, or I can't even schedule a court date. So a lot of times when people have a lot of them, they pay them off. Then I go back and I reopen the cases to try and get the points off.
And what about all the other stuff, the collection, all that? You were focusing on points right now.
Right. I can't do anything.
You can't do anything about. Okay, nope. But those points. Let's talk about those points. Do they escalate as you ignore the ticket, or are they the same points?
No, they don't escalate. Really, what happens is for a specific ticket under a statute, there's an assigned number of points. But let me back up. The points are assessed when you pay the actual ticket. So for example, you have a 2013 ticket that you ignored, your license gets suspended, you pay it in 2016, that's when the points get assessed on the license. And this is so that's when you pay it, that's when it happens.
Oh.
So this becomes a real issue for folks who have multiple driving on license suspended or revoked, because they will have, 2011, 2013, 2018. Then they call me and say, that's not within 5 years. And I'm like, when did you pay it? Last week. Oh, okay. So the 11, the 13, and the 18 now counted all for 2018. And now they've become a habitual traffic offender.
Okay, so now as a habitual traffic offender, we don't even know, we're ignoring this. Why do people, in your experience, why do people ignore paying a ticket? Did they forget or what?
They forget, they have financial issues, they have priorities, pay other bills a lot of times, or, sometimes I have young drivers who just simply forget, they don't care.
They don't tell their parents?
right? Or there are folks like with the red light camera tickets, a lot of times they forget to change their driver license address and it gets sent somewhere else. So there's this ticket that's hanging out there for months and now they're past the deadline.
My goodness. I mean, anything could happen. I'm so grateful that you know the ways. So basically, how do you get their points off? Before we answer that, financial issues seems to be like an ongoing, I don't have the money, so therefore I'm going to pay it and not going to pay it, and I'm just going to ignore it. If somebody has financial issues, can they contact the clerk and say, can we come up with a negotiation? Can we negotiate the money that I owe you and pay you little by little? What would happen if somebody were to do that?
I'm pretty sure the clerk's office accepts a payment plan, but you have to physically go and establish it. I mean, this happens a lot in criminal cases when people can just come up, with several $100s to pay the court costs. So they establish a payment plan and they pay it off. Pretty sure they could do that with a civil traffic ticket as well. It's the issue of ignoring it past the deadline that really gets people in trouble.
Now, when you're looking for a job, and can they check that? Will that show up as part of your past if you have all these civil tickets and you're habitual, traffic offender?
I think it depends on the job. Like I said, for CDL drivers or for anybody who has to have a valid license, like folks who even sell at a car dealership, their MVR gets pulled all the time, probably once a year. So a lot of people will call me and say, hey, Kate, mine is coming up in April. Can this get cleared up in 2 months?
And how quickly can you clear it up? And what are the costs involved for that?
It just depends on the ticket. If those are civil tickets and we need to reopen them, there is a court cost of $25 to reopen. And then my fee just depends on what the ticket is and how complicated the process is going to be.
Okay.
But it just depends on what they need done. First, we got to figure out what's the root of the suspension. And then attack that.
Okay. And so as a parent, how can we find out if our children have tickets, or should we even do a research like that?
Well, I guess it depends on the parent. Everything appears on the driving record. So if you can get a driving record from the DMV, or there's a website, DMV has an official website. If you Google Florida DL check, it comes up and you can just put anybody's driver license number that has a Florida license and it'll give you if the license is valid or not, or if there are outstanding tickets.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's really good tip. Now, for those of you who have any questions for Kate, she's a Jacksonville criminal defense attorney, Kate Mesic of Mesic Law. The number is 904-615-8950 if you want to get a hold of her during the week. Today, though, if you have any questions about different tickets, you can call me at 407-373-5959, or you can text me your question at the same number, 407-373-5959. Today we're talking about traffic violations, civil, criminal, habitual DUI. So the DUI, that's a biggie for many people, and we're gonna talk about that later. But for now, how many tickets should somebody would somebody have in order for it to be considered habitual?
So, and that's what I wanted to address separately, because HTO is just a whole another ball game. So remember how we were talking about driving license suspended or revoked?
Yes.
If you get 3 of those within 5 years, you become a habitual traffic offender. And again, remember, there's a combination of ways it can happen. You have the unknowingly and the knowingly. Mm-hmm. So if you can avoid points on the unknowingly ones, then they won't count.
Okay, so why don't we... But what we'll do is let's revisit this question again, because this is so important for us to grasp that we are not only in control of our life, but when it comes to being responsible for the other side of us, where it's the tickets or whatever it is, we need to know what that is. And we need to know how we can fix it with Kate Mesic of Mesic Law. We're going to continue our conversation worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Yeah, this habitual stuff. I always think, just take a ticket, right? But there's more to it. I'm so glad that you're a part of this.
Right here waiting for
There we go. Good countdown, Alan.
You're welcome, lady.
So, I don't know if people know that there's a show during the week. So I'm going to mention that when we come back from the break as well. So, Kate, can you give an example of someone that did not know they were habitual, or maybe that they did know there was habitual? And how?
From the divorcemenonly.com studios, AM 600, 101.1 FM, WB.
There we go. Thank you. And, okay. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about maybe a case where they were habitual, they knew it, or they didn't know it, and how you were able to help them.
Well, I think the extreme scenario of when somebody comes and they really didn't know they had an HTO suspension is when they get arrested for a felony. Because if you're driving on a habitual traffic offender suspension and you get pulled over, technically it's a felony.
What's a felony?
What is a felony? It's a third-degree felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison and up to a $5,000 fine.
What do you do in order to get a felony?
That's what I'm saying. If your license is an HTO status and you're still driving and you get pulled over, the officer is going to arrest you for a felony.
Oh boy. Okay. I thought maybe somebody had committed a felony and
No,
also, okay.
That is a
felony. Okay.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, that's the extreme side. I'll tell you, 2 weeks ago, I had a lady who was hiring me and we were talking about her HTO status and how to undo it. And she got arrested on the HTO for a felony on the way to my office. And I was like, you were not supposed to be driving. I told you that. But she literally got picked up because then I talked to her a week later and I'm like, you've disappeared. And she said, yep, I got arrested on the way to your office. Now I have a pending felony. I'm like, yep, we've got a bigger problem. So
wow. I'm sure that she hired you as her attorney, right?
She did. I'm handling that felony. Yes.
Okay. But you know what? This is the thing. People show up on suspended license driving to the courthouse.
Yeah, they do all the time.
Why?
I don't know. They don't do this in Jacksonville much. I haven't seen it. When I was a prosecutor in Ocala, when somebody showed up and they were pleading to driving on license suspended, the bailiffs would follow them out and see if they got in their car and drove and would arrest them. It's happened all the time.
Well, what about the alien, the illegal alien that gets these tickets? How have you dealt with that?
Yeah, I get a lot of those as well. Usually they get issued the no valid driver's license because they've never had a license. So it's a different statute.
So what happens then? And how can you defend somebody like that?
Well, we usually work out the best deal possible, and my job is usually to keep them out of court. So I take care of it without them ever showing up to the courtroom.
This has got to be scary. The people that come to you, and this is not a judgment. This is not coming from a place of judgment, but we know these things. Even if we try to ignore them, we know them. So do you have people come to you and say, I had no idea. I forgot. I forgot? Can you go back to the judge and say, she forgot? And what happens? Would the judge laugh at you?
I mean, it's a mitigating circumstance, certainly, but I don't think it's an excuse. And at that point, you're not negotiating with the judge. You're negotiating with the state attorney's office, and then hopefully work out a negotiated plea, and then go in front of a judge to see if they'll accept it.
First-time offenders, are they just as hard on first-time offenders as they are habitual?
Oh, no, certainly not. And it just depends on the crime we're talking about.
Wow. Well, here we go. And it could happen to anybody. I'm not trying to pass judgment because, heck, I got my ticket and I was like, time just goes by. You have like a certain amount of time before you can do the traffic score.
Or leave her a voicemail.
And like the day before I did it.
5959.
Exactly.
Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where you can hear us worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. I want to let you guys know that this show is not just on Saturdays on WBOB. It's also, we have Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. in Jacksonville at 12 o'clock, in Brevard County from Daytona all the way to West Palm. And then we also have 5 o'clock. So the show gets rebroadcast, and we also have live shows every day except Sundays. So I hope that you join us. You know, Kate is part of the Lillian McDermott radio show team. She's part of the Legal Dream team, and I'm so grateful that we get to have these conversations on the air. I'm stunned every time that Kate's on the show because there's so many things we neglect. And yeah, you may neglect yourself, and that has a consequence. But when you neglect the law, and when you think, okay, I forgot about it, did you really forget? Or I didn't know, did you really not know? There's so many things that happen in our lives that we do these things to ourselves. And it's good to know that there's someone that can hold our hand through the process. And that's Kate Mesic of Mesic Law. And that's 904-615-8950. You can find her on the internet as well at mesiclaw.com. And so this is what we talk about on the show, is taking responsibility for our lives. And it's so important that we always find that support to guide us along. That's what whenyouneedafriend.com is for. I want to make sure that you go there and subscribe, become a subscriber. And when you do that, you'll get your show sent right to your phone and tablet. You'll also get some gifts. And one of the gifts that you get that plays a role here is, the 90-day challenge to self-love. This is all about loving yourself and giving yourself the gift of this freedom that you experience when you actually go to an attorney to help you. And that's why Lily's Legal Dream Team was created, because when you're going through it, that's not the time to start looking for an attorney. It's nice to know that you have someone that you can call maybe before anything, just in case. Call Kate. Just let her know. Thank her for being part of the Lillian McDermott radio show. And her number is 904-615-8950. If it weren't for my sponsors, this show would not happen. So I want to encourage you, when you go to whenyouneedafriend.com, click on Lily's sponsors, or the sponsors for the show, and check out every single one of them that is supporting the show. Make sure that you support them the way they are supporting the show and making a difference as well. I want to encourage you to not just become a subscriber, but like me on my social media, subscribe on our YouTube channel. The show will be on YouTube afterwards, because the information that you get is invaluable. And so just make sure you do that. You can listen on podcast on demand at iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, and we're now on Spotify. And so for those of you who want to visit Kate and see her office, she has a beautiful office at 6550 St. Augustine Road. She's in Suite 305 in Jacksonville. Her number again is 904-619-2510. Now, Kate, if somebody goes through this and it's after hours or it's a Saturday, how do they get a hold of an attorney? Or is that something that you just have to wait till Monday?
My phones are forwarded to my cell phone.
Perfect. Okay. I saw that. I didn't want to give it away, but okay. So good. Thank you so much, Kate, for everything that you do. Now, before we went on the break, we started talking about habitual traffic violators. So let's talk about that. What is that? What does it consist of? And let's just focus on it, because many of us can fall under this category as well.
Well, a statute in Florida provides several ways you can become HTO, but I want to talk about the most common one, because that's the one I see most of the time.
Okay.
And that one has to do with getting 3 driving on license suspended or revoked tickets within 5 years. Those tickets can be both civil or criminal. So, for example, you and I on break also were talking about, you get a ticket, you just pay it. Well, if you just pay the driving on license suspended or revoked unknowingly, that counts as you won.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just need 2 more within 5 years and you become an HTO. Again, the example I was giving you, I don't know if it was on break or on the air, but I'll repeat it. Both for HTO and for points purposes, it counts when you pay it.
Wow.
So very frequently I have folks who've gotten these tickets over a span of 10 years. They've been outstanding, and then they pay them all at one time and they suddenly become a habitual traffic offender.
In one clean swoop.
one clean swoop, they've paid the tickets and they're going, I'm finally free. I have the money. I'm going to get a driver's license. And boom, their license is suspended for 5 years. So an HTO suspension is a 5-year suspension. If you drive on it, it's a felony. You're committing a felony if you drive on it. And I've handled a lot of those cases. We tried to bump it down to a misdemeanor. And then if you choose not to try and undo an HTO suspension, or you can't do it, then within 1 year, you qualify for a hardship license through the DMV.
And that means?
That means if you haven't driven and there are no other tickets, the DMV will consider you for a business purposes only license that has to do with driving for work, school, church, or medical. Those 4 purposes.
And that's 1 year after you have your license suspended.
As an HTO, correct.
Okay, before we continue on with that, I have a specific question.
Sure.
Let's say we do have a ticket in 2011, 2013, we have another ticket, but we didn't pay them, and then now we have another ticket. If I were to go to you and say, okay, I know that you're not giving advice to anybody, could I have avoided this by going to you beforehand so that the tickets were paid, at different times or work so that it works on my behalf, on my benefit, so that it doesn't show up in 1 year? Is there anything you can do about that?
Well, certainly. And again, remember, I think we need to back up and explain the options. You get that ticket, you look at it, it gives you the fine. Don't just pay it. If you qualify for a traffic school, you can do that. That's usually the cheapest option. CDL drivers don't qualify. Out-of-state license holders don't qualify. So then a lot of people then call me and say, hey, can you get points withheld? I take care of it. Then they pay the fine. No issues arise. Okay. When people come and the tickets are really old, those tickets are already in collections. The clerk's office will not allow me to do anything until the actual person goes and pays them through collections. Then I can reopen.
Should we pay one at a time every year? I mean, so that we don't have a habitual license. I mean, I don't know if I'm going off topic here, but I'm thinking having, you deciding, okay, now I'm going to pay everything at one time, and that's going to suspend my license or suspend my license or give me at least 1 year where I can't drive. You're talking about a hardship. Is there any exception to that rule? If I want to pay off all my tickets, is there any exception where I can immediately start driving again?
I think you're confusing regular traffic tickets with HTO. HTO is only caused by very specific things like driving on license suspended. So when you just have a bunch of tickets that don't have to do with driving on license suspended, you'll end up, let's say you have 6 and you pay them all at one time. That's 18 points usually.
No,
that'll suspend your license for possibly 6 months. But again, even if you pay them, I can go back in and reopen them and get some of the points withheld, which will undo the suspension.
Okay. So there are things that you can do to make sure that this hardship thing doesn't occur in our life.
Again, the hardship license only has to do with the HTO suspension. We're just talking about regular tickets. The HTO only comes in with very specific scenarios on a suspended license.
Okay. So let's talk about anything other as that we can do with these habitual traffic offenders in Florida.
What we can do with them?
Yeah, anything else that we've not discussed that is important for us to know?
I think it's important to let people know that there is a way to undo the suspension. There has been, I can think of maybe only 2 cases over the last 5 years that I wasn't able to lift the suspension. And that just has to do with their driving record. There's no opportunity to reopen cases. But they just need to realize that if you have an HTO suspension, get a driving record, call me, and I may be able to find a way to undo it so you don't have to suffer through it for 5 years.
So people, I think the reason, the big myth, if I don't have time, if I don't have the money to pay for a ticket, how am I going to pay for an attorney? How can you kind of calm them down to say that this is going to be probably better for them to contact an attorney in the long run?
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, if I'll give you an example. If we have to reopen, let's say 1 ticket and it will fix the suspension, usually it's between $500 and $750 for me to do it. Mm-hmm. There may be some other issues that are holding their license other than the HTO. but if it's just two simple civil tickets that we need to reopen, that it's not going to be very expensive. And if you think about it in the long run, you're not driving. What are you paying for an Uber, or you can't hold a job in Jacksonville without a driver's license? Then you really need to try and get
a lot of money.
Correct.
Yeah. If you're in that situation, and many people decide to just ignore the law and continue to drive, and then they're really going to need you, right?
Yeah. And then you're facing criminal suspension.
Now it's criminal. And we haven't talked about criminal yet. We need to talk about criminal suspension here. And DUIs, for those of you who choose to drink and drive, please think again. And we're going to continue our conversation with Kate Mesic of Mesic Law. And we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. And remember, you can call 407-373-5959 or text me, leave a message. I have a question for Kate Mesic. When we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. There we go. This is I can't even wrap my mind around how many different ways you can get in trouble. Driving is a privilege. So many different ways that we can get in trouble with this tool that's a privilege. And we treat it as if it was we're entitled to drive.
The Lilly McDermott radio show has brought great teachers who have taught us that our bodies can heal naturally and without toxicity.
We haven't even tapped into the criminal side of it. How rare is it, or how common is it?
Again, I get calls almost every day on criminal traffic tickets.
Criminal you get every day. Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, a lot of people don't realize they're criminal. That's part of the issue. If you look at your ticket, there's some boxes on the bottom. We may want to mention this in the air.
Yeah.
And one of them will be, it's a criminal violation, and people don't pay any attention. They ignore the ticket and they get a warrant issued. And then you're in a much worse trouble than before.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, yeah, we definitely want to talk about that. Now, how a DUI, when somebody gets a DUI, where does that fall? How many does somebody get one DUI and then their license is suspended, or do you have like multiple DUIs before that happens?
Well, the Florida law provides for length of suspensions based on a DUI. On a first DUI, if you blow above 0.08 and you actually take the breath test, then the suspension is for 6 months. If you refuse, it's for 1 year. That's the implied consent on the bottom of your license. And remember, that's the administrative suspension that kicks in immediately. That has nothing to do with the criminal case. The judge can impose
about a minute.
suspension.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's something that many people make that choice. Have you ever gotten somebody that's just made a stupid choice, ended up getting pulled over, got a DUI, and you're looking at them going, how do you help somebody like that? How do you help somebody that gets a DUI? They know they drank. They know they made a mistake. How can you help them?
That's pretty much 99% of the cases. The first-time offender DUIs are just regular people who never expected to be in that situation, who have careers, who have families they support, who are doing the right thing. Again, as a criminal defense attorney, my job is to make sure their rights are protected. I ask people to tell me the truth. Sometimes they don't, and they tell me the truth later, but I need to know in order to help them. My job, I always tell people, my job is to take pieces out of the puzzle that the state attorney's office is putting together. So if you tell me the entire scenario, then I'll be able to help you.
That's a tough one. It's a tough one, Kate. Your job is a tough job. I want to take my hat. I wish I had a hat on because I'd take it off to you, because you deal with great people at their worst.
You can count on me.
This is our last segment.
Alrighty, wow.
I know, time flies, right?
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn and grow with one another. This topic is a difficult topic. Many of us think that driving is, I don't know, you're entitled to drive. The reality is driving is a privilege. It is really a privilege. And we need to treat it with the utmost respect. However, every single one of us thinks, I'm going to make it to wherever faster, or I'm going to go there and nobody's going to know. Who's going to know? You know what? Somehow, when it's a lesson that you need to learn, they know, everybody knows. And when that happens, who do you call? You call Kate Mesic. Mesic Law, she's Florida attorney, and you can find her at, Kate at, I'll give you the address. It's 6550 St. Augustine Road, Suite 305 in Jacksonville. Her number, the office number, is 904-619-2510. That's 904-619-2510. If you find yourself that you're in trouble and you just don't know what to do, it will affect your body. It will affect the way you think. It'll affect the way you act. It'll affect every aspect of your life. Why not just get rid of it? Why not just do something about it and have someone help you, hold your hand through the process? I'm just telling you right now, Kate, you see great people at their worst. I so admire you for what you do, because it's really easy to pass judgment on someone and say, hey, you did it, you pay for it. But there are ways that you protect people that we don't even understand. So let's talk about the criminal side. Let's talk about the criminal side and the DUI. Share with us the things we need to know and why you are able to help.
Well, I think, again, DUI can happen to anybody. That's the unfortunate part. So advice number one is don't drink and drive.
Sure.
It's not worth it. The consequences are severe and extremely expensive in the state of Florida. Mm-hmm. And remember, if you ever enter a plea to a driving under the influence in Florida, it's a mandatory conviction. You have permanent criminal record. So again, the majority of cases, people hire us to try and get rid of the DUI or at least break it down to a reckless driving. Mm-hmm. That way we can later on seal the record, hopefully. The consequences are severe. The cost is extensive. The level of embarrassment that people go through and the inconvenience with the license is just great. In terms of the driver's license, and I think you and I briefly talked about this before, mm-hmm. but when you are arrested for a DUI, implied consent law on the bottom of your driver's license, it says, this is a privilege. If you refuse to take the test, your license will be suspended for 1 year. That's an administrative suspension. If you refuse to take that test, the suspension goes into effect. If you blow and your results are higher than 0.08, the suspension is for 6 months. Again, remember, this is just on a first DUI. On second, third, fourth, things are considerably worse.
Yeah.
So we're just talking about the garden variety first timer. Then within those 10 days after your arrest, you can either choose to challenge that administrative suspension, that's for a year or 6 months, or you can immediately get a hardship license. Majority of people get a hardship license because you simply can't function in Northeast Florida without a driver's license. Mm-hmm. But DUIs are some of the toughest cases, I think, to fight. A lot of times they're more complicated than felonies because there's so much scientific data that goes into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's in that situation, you're not at full, your faculty is not there. I mean, have you ever had anybody call you from the scene where they're being pulled over? Has anybody ever called you from there, or do they immediately get arrested and put in jail if they are found that they are under the influence?
Well, I don't think they're immediately arrested. It's no, I've never had anybody.
Okay.
I think there's some ethical issues with that too. That's usually a good law school example of, can you give legal advice at that point or not? You're not arrested. I think people panic. Anytime you're around a police officer, people panic. So the advice I always give, take a deep breath. Just, take a step back. Whether you were drinking or not, you're going to be nervous. I mean, even if you're getting just a speeding ticket.
Oh, I know.
You didn't have a drop of wine, you're still nervous.
Yeah, even when you see the flashing lights and they're just happen to be behind you.
Exactly.
And you pull over just in case it's not you. It's like...
Exactly. So I always tell folks, keep your registration and your insurance card somewhere where it is. I even give my clients a little, like a pocket with my number on it. Put your insurance and registration in there, know where it is. It's that simple. Because what happens is when you get to the jail on a DUI and you refuse that breath test, now they're going to use everything you've done before as a sign of impairment. She couldn't find her registration. That's a sign of impairment, even though you're just fumbling through, you're nervous.
Yeah.
There's
so many. And you know what? I want to also acknowledge our first responders, our police officers who are out there risking their lives. This is a serious violation and of trust as well. If you are inebriated or if you're taking medication, let's talk about medication.
Sure.
These police officers and first responders, they risk their lives for us. Let's honor them back by being, asking somebody to drive for us. There's Uber. There's so many different things that we can reach out to. We have options.
Absolutely.
Oh, and talk about, even if you have your key and you're decide you pull over and you're not going to drive, if you have you're in the front seat. So let's talk about how specific the law is when it comes to drinking and driving, and let's talk about medication as well. So.
Okay, so again, on a very basic level, in order for the state attorney's office to convict someone of DUI, they have to prove two things. Number one, you were either driving, that's the easy one, or what you're talking about, actual or physical control of the car. Mm-hmm. So, you have folks who fell asleep in the parking lot, the keys are still in the ignition, the AC is on, they're still in control of the car. The state could still theoretically prove that first element of DUI. And then the second one is obviously your breath alcohol level was above 0.08 or your normal faculties were impaired. Mm-hmm. So in terms of medication, again, folks always get confused. Well, I wasn't drinking. Well, did you smoke any marijuana? Because it can be impairment by drugs. It can be illegal drugs. It can be medication. Mm-hmm. Very frequently people come and they're impaired, but it's not by alcohol. And that still is enough for a DUI or for an arrest for DUI. And then we try to take it apart.
Mm-hmm. In a situation like that, you can help somebody.
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's still a DUI. It's just a different kind. Every set of facts is very different.
Now, I noticed that you said that you can have, when you are DUI, can you have that overturned? I mean, let's say, can you prove that, in fact, that they weren't inebriated, that maybe they were reaching for something and it just so happened that, is there any way that you can blow or if you refuse to blow and you can prove that they weren't inebriated? Well, can you do that?
We don't have any burden to prove anything on the defense side. The state attorney's office, the state has the burden of proof in these criminal cases. Our job is, like I said, just to take pieces out of it, poke holes in the state's case. So it's really what you're talking about is to see, is there an opportunity for a motion to suppress that the stop was illegal? Correct. Is there an opportunity for a motion to suppress that the police officer perhaps didn't follow all the regulations when it comes to the breath test?
Yes.
That's what you're talking about. And we explore that in every single case just to see, what pieces of the puzzle we can take away from the state's case and hopefully get them to either drop it or break it down to a reckless driving.
Well, great. And it's so nice to know that there's somebody in Jacksonville that we can go to when we have any questions about these, because this is something that could happen to any of us. When we think of a criminal defense attorney, we think of major cases, right? But driving could be a part of why we would need to reach out to you. Now, share why you are different than any other attorney in Jacksonville in the Florida area.
I hope that we're different. I think we're different that my response rate is very fast. And we really keep our clients apprised of what's going on. Communication is number one priority in my office. And I also want to educate people. I want to know exactly what's going on.
Very good. Thank you so much, Kate. I really appreciate everything that you do to support the Lillian McDermott radio show. And thank you for coming out on a Saturday morning. I really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
And to you, my listening friend, the number for Kate is 904-619-2510. Please remember that when you are in need like this or if something happens, just call and ask the question. She'll be there waiting for you. And we will be waiting for you as well, worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Okay. Great. This is information that we just don't know we don't know. And there's so many times where we were just to pay off a fine, just get it over with. But what we're doing is admitting guilt with or without doing whatever it takes to figure out if there's anything less that we can have to suffer the consequence for less.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And I really thank you for coming out on a Saturday. And any last words of comfort for our viewers on YouTube at this point? Because now you're talking right to the YouTube people.
I think people just need to know that there's information out there. Don't trust everything that the internet tells you, because it may not be accurate. It may not be the correct state. It may not be Florida law. So my website is there. If I can be of help, like you said, I'm available by phone.
Very good. And that's mesiclaw.com. That's MESIC law.com. Thank you, Kate, for everything that you do. And I look forward to the next time you're on the show.
Thanks, Lily.
And
Bye.
to you, my viewers, thank you for watching. I look forward to our next conversation.